Have you ever had a love so sacred it stayed quiet, tucked away like a secret city only the two of you knew existed? Eloise Delacroix had always believed in the magic of Paris, the city where lovers could disappear into its cobbled streets, where time seemed to pause and the world outside faded into nothing. She had grown up dreaming of the city, the possibility of finding love there, the kind that was eternal, like the love stories written into the city's walls. But she had never imagined that it would happen far from Paris, in a different kind of world, her own private one. When Theodore Laurent came into her life, it was as if he had been pulled from the same fantasy. The first time they spoke, the way their worlds collided, it was clear that neither of them would ever be the same. He wasn't just a man, he was a force, a magnetic pull she couldn't escape. They met on a rainy evening, not in Paris, but in a quiet little cafe by the river in Marseille. The world outside was a blur, the droplets of rain falling against the window mimicking the beat of her heart. It felt like a moment stolen from time, like they had been waiting for each other without even knowing it. Eloise, with her French elegance and quiet demeanor, and Theodore, with his easy charm and reckless energy, together, they created a universe of their own, one that no one else could quite understand. They spent their nights talking about everything and nothing, about art, music, love, and dreams. They shared stories of places they'd been and the ones they longed to visit, always ending the night with a promise to one day walk through the streets of Paris together, hand in hand, without a care in the world. It felt like they were living in their own Paris, not the Paris of monuments and tourists, but a Paris that belonged only to them, where love was pure and untainted by the chaos of reality. Theodore often joked, with a mischievous smile on his lips, that the world outside didn't exist when they were together. He had a way of making everything else seem irrelevant, as if no one else mattered, as if it were just the two of them in a bubble of pure affection and desire. "I think we're in our own little Paris," he would say, his voice low, as they watched the city lights from their rooftop. And Eloise would smile, her heart skipping a beat every time he said those words. It was as if he had unlocked something deep inside her, something she hadn't even known existed. Their love was a reckless kind of magic. It was the kind of love that made the mundane extraordinary. Every conversation felt like poetry, every touch like a symphony, every glance a silent declaration. It wasn't always perfect, there were moments of doubt, of insecurity, but somehow, they always found their way back to each other, to that little corner of the world that only existed when they were together. One night, as they sat at their usual spot in the dimly lit cafe, Eloise looked at Theodore, her gaze filled with affection and something deeper, something she couldn't quite name. "What is it about you?" she asked softly. "Why does it feel like we're the only ones alive when we're together?" Theodore grinned, reaching across the table to gently take her hand. "It's simple, Eloise," he said. "We're in Paris. And Paris has a way of making everything feel infinite." The words resonated deep within her, echoing in the space between them. He was right. In this world, in this love, they had created a Paris that no one could take away, a Paris that was all their own. They could go anywhere, do anything, and it would always feel like home as long as they were together. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and their love only grew stronger. But as with all things, life had a way of interrupting their perfect world. Theodore was offered an opportunity, an unexpected career move, one that would take him far from Marseille and certainly far from Eloise. The thought of being apart was unbearable, but they both knew this was something he couldn't pass up. So, the reality of their separate worlds began to creep in, just as they'd always known it would. The fear of losing the magic they'd shared started to settle in their hearts. On their final night together, as they walked through the streets of their beloved Marseille, the weight of the impending separation hung heavy between them. They stopped by the river, the glow of the lamplights reflecting in the water, casting everything in a golden haze. "I wish we could stay here forever," Eloise murmured, resting her head on Theodore's shoulder. "But we can't, can we?" No, Theodore replied, his voice thick with emotion. But I'll always keep Paris alive in my heart, especially the Paris we built together. Eloise turned to face him, her eyes wet with unshed tears. And I'll always keep our little Paris in mine, she whispered. No matter where we are, no matter what. They kissed under the dim light, as if trying to capture everything they had ever felt in that one last moment. The kiss was soft, filled with love and longing, the quiet promise that they would always find their way back to each other. Years later, Eloise had since moved to Paris, the real one. The one with creperies and car horns and lovers who held hands in the shadows of monuments. Her apartment overlooked the rooftops of Montmartre, and on clear nights, she could see the glitter of the Eiffel Tower in the distance. But no matter how breathtaking the city was, it never compared to the one she'd built with Theodore in her mind. She'd heard whispers about him over the years. From mutual friends, old acquaintances, people passing through. He's in London now, working on some big campaign for a fashion house. I saw him at Hugo's wedding, he looked good. Brought a girl with him. American, I think. But it was Margot, warm, blunt, always a little too perceptive, who told her what she hadn't been brave enough to ask. They ran into each other at a gallery opening near Saint-Germain. Margot, in head-to-toe navy silk, handed Eloise a glass of Chablis and eyed her over the rim. You know he's back in the city, right? Eloise blinked. Theodore? Temporary campaign. I thought you knew. I didn't. Margot's expression softened. He still talks about you, you know. Not like someone he used to love. Like someone he still does. 2 days later, Eloise turned a corner near her favorite bookshop, and there he was. Theodore. Standing beneath a chestnut tree, thumbing through a vintage photography journal, sunlight catching the edge of his jaw. It was him. Older, broader, quieter, but still him. Their eyes met like a collision in slow motion. Eloise, he breathed. Theodore. Silence hummed between them. The city around them faded. Still drinking wine and pretending it's champagne, he asked, half grinning. Only when I miss you, she said. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. They walked the city slowly, like retracing an old poem. He showed her photos from Tokyo. She read him unpublished poems tucked into her wallet. They didn't speak of time lost, just time found. One evening, in the Jardin du Luxembourg, he turned to her, voice hushed beneath the stars. I tried to find it, you know. That feeling. In other places. With other people. And, she asked. He smiled. I never could. Because Paris was always you. Some loves don't need landmarks. Just memory. They found each other once in a place that wasn't Paris. And somehow, they found their way back. Not to the Eiffel Tower or the Seine, but to their Paris. A love built in the quiet. Infinite. If you love stories that stick with you like old friends, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share to keep them coming. This is Everlore Diaries, where every story leaves its mark.